TSM.
915-544-5876.
Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you're tuning in, however you're wanting to particularly add your 2 cents of Amber Banda, starting off with the rock on, of course, obviously, for a very busy Monday. I've said it before, as we also have Monica Cervantes, hola to you as well. I've often said it before that, there's always a lot of stuff going on over the weekend that we end up wrapping up and giving you kind of a view of the week ahead whenever we start on Monday. Robbie Flores there as well. Hello. Saying hi, everyone. Hello to you as well. But it's never been quite such a stark example as this past weekend. Austin Redfern, good afternoon to you as well. Because, I'm surprised I can talk today, to be perfectly honest with y'all, because the way I was mainlining coffee to get through all of the things going on through yesterday into today, keeping on top of everything. So, yes, I didn't say anything about it on Friday because I wasn't totally sure if it was going to be possible or not, or if I was going to be able to do it. But ended up going out and covering a bunch of the presidential arrival, some of the after news conferences, talking with our news partners about what was going on, where was going on, because of that little thing about why if you try to get anywhere near Montana, near Central, 54, just kind of in general, parts of South Central El Paso, any parts of those yesterday. If you're wondering why you weren't able to get there was a little thing called the president was in town. And so that's why people texting me, asking me, hey, do you know what's going on, where the things are going, where's it going to be, what, where, when, how? And I knew some of that because I was out there. So I was at the airport during the arrival. And so that's part of what we're going to be breaking down. That's primarily what we're going to be breaking down for you today. Some of the major things, not just the places visited, the subjects investigated, etc., but more specifically where the president went, where the parts of that were, and then also what were some of the things that were being said about it. So there's a whole lot to break down in that because, among other things, of course, Governor Greg Abbott was also in town. Got to get in a question with him. Local elected officials did kind of wrap up next steps things after the visit was over. So got more details on that, some specific questions I was able to get in there as well as some that you all have been asking surrounding the visit. So we could probably do this entire damn show just on the recordings and the clips of what went down and the things that were able to be talked about and asked yesterday. And so we won't do that. Don't worry. We're still going to be taking calls as we usually do at the later point during the program. But we got a lot to break down about essentially the policy. I still feel like I called that shot pretty well last week about if the president was going to be in town, policy would have to be the focus. And I feel like that very much has borne out, though maybe not exactly in the ways that could have been anticipated. Among other things, I got the details for the letter that Governor Greg Abbott handed to the president upon his arrival in El Paso at the steps of Air Force One, as well as the further conversations that were going on between Abbott, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and all of that, the places that are being toured, as well as the visits going on today. Like this has not stopped. We now have the senators that have been coming through town today as well, what they have been visiting, what they have been seeing, and you want to call it what other action may be coming. So, there's a whole lot to be coming off of there. And if you're thinking that anyone gets the demand to talk about anything, you got me messed up from the start, my dude, because we talk about what affects us here in the borderland, what goes on here. And if you don't think that these policies do, well, I don't even know what to tell you here, but if you're at all confused, this is an iHeartRadio show. Let's just make sure that you ain't got it messed up here. If you want to go and see Sinclair Broadcasting, that's CBS 4 and KFOX 14. So they do their thing, and of course we have some communication with them. They are our news partners. There have been like agreements signed, but this is iHeartRadio, and we do our own different things. So if you want to go yell at them, go ahead. Not that I'd recommend it, but just to say some people don't take advice that well. But yeah, there's a lot of significant things that came out of all of these visits, and we're definitely going to be breaking that down. So at least a couple of the things that were actually being talked about during these visits were, of course, what has been going on here at the southern border, and particularly in the Borderland region. Not going to be a totally unfamiliar subject for anyone that has lived in this area, traveled around, particularly in the downtown, south central area. But also, I mean, if you've been tuned in here, we've definitely talked about it. And so there wasn't a whole lot to be said directly from President Biden, at least for when it comes to us local folks. Because, I mean, sure, I saw him and some of the pictures that we were posting up online, giving you all some of the updates going on yesterday on our social media channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and not so much, well, not really YouTube or Twitch there, because you can't really do just like basic updates unless you're posting a video. But yeah, the president arrived a little bit after, around about like 12:30 our time yesterday, and departed because I, ironically enough, was able to see the departure of Air Force One from on the 19th floor of the Wells Fargo building, where we were then awaiting the kind of post-visit news conference being held by the local elected officials, including, of course, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, a visiting congressman from a further part of Texas, Representative Gonzalez, not Tony Gonzalez, different one from further down along the Texas-Mexico border. But then also Mayor Oscar Lee, Sir County Judge Ricardo Samaniego, the CEO of the El Paso Chamber, also represented there, as well as Bishop Mark Seitz and one of his colleagues as well in the religious community. So a lot of kind of wrap up and after that. But again, a few questions, important questions that we felt needed to be asked coming out of this as well. So there's a lot to break down for y'all today. But one of the more significant things that has, of course, been being talked about is the letter that Governor Greg Abbott ended up handing over to the president. And we at least one of the clips, because after the initial start of the visit and after the departation of the motorcade, it was interesting to me to see that it was actually Bishop Seitz that got in the Stame vehicle as the president to take off initially. I mean, there was several of them, so there was quite the entourage and people going along and coming for the visit as well. But then it was, I think, I didn't see anyone else get into the same kind of like seating area as the president as they departed the airport. So the first initial conversations actually on the ride out happening again with the bishop, it looked like to me. But Governor Greg Abbott then came over and spoke with me and the assembled coverage that was going on there, and talked specifically about the letter that he had handed to the president upon his arrival here in Texas, laying out what he called 5 concrete things that need to be done in order to deal with the situation that is part of the reason that he is coming to our area when it comes to those border security and immigration issues. So even just doing the intro and kind of setting up all this, we're going to be breaking down that letter, the parts of it, and the other policy things and questions that even y'all have been bringing up. We're going to be doing that for, that's probably going to be the first major part of our program right now. So you are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Got to take that first break right now. But coming out of this, we've both got the letter, things being said, what Governor Abbott said to me, got the recordings for you, and having a whole lot more to break down there. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Comments coming in online. We'll get to some more of those here and talk about who's chiming in there and what comments y'all are making, as well as more of the clips. We got audio for you. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A collision involving a couple of vehicles on the 54 Patriot southbound at Hondo Pass. 2 vehicles are blocking the right and the left shoulders. It's slow on northbound Zaragoza from Tierra Este up to Montana Avenue with 17-minute delays. A crash reported Montana Avenue just west of Yarborough, and an injury accident Yandell near Cotton Street at Lee. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West, that's it. What are you, nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
Most of the time, traffic is pretty good.
But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost, but more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
I never write reviews, but Navage is so amazing, I had to leave one. Nothing's ever cleared out my sinuses as well. I'm blown away by how Navage works. That's a review from Carrie, and it's one of over 100,000 online testimonials praising Navage. I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I've talked about flushing out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, how Navage's powered suction can help you breathe better, and how your nose is the body's air filter, and Navage will clean it out. But don't take my word for it. What do people like Chad say, who wrote, Navage has helped clear out my nasal passages every single night. My wife says my snoring has gone way down. Snorefest be gone, unquote. Navage is the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million customers to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Recently, we hit the streets and found out how informed people really are.
Yes, I'm on top of events.
Most news, yes.
Except for these two.
I am not on top of events.
I'm not on top of my events, no.
They were clueless that every morning they can plug into the world with the news, weather, and traffic info that'll make their lives so much easier and more informed. Just like you and I do. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea with just the click of a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Visit InspireSleep.com to learn more.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather, yeah. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Hey Texas, did you know that individuals living with serious mental illness are more susceptible to severe COVID-19? Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov for vaccination resources to help reduce the risk and keep yourself and your fellow Texans informed and protected this holiday season. Stay healthy, Texas.
Being aware of the world around you is important.
When it comes to news, yes, I am.
So we're feeding your need to know 24/7 at the top and bottom of the hour.
I like to know what's going on in my locality, abroad.
Events of the world.
Fairly so. Yeah, I'm pretty connected.
Or down the street.
For the most part, I know what's going on.
You know, I need to be aware and what to look out for, and I'm real cautious, so yeah, I need to have that.
It's what we do. News Radio 690 KTSM.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult.
This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed.
Shouldn't we listen?
They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations going on there, just as a gentle reminder, because we're probably going to be being a little bit more stringent with this, dealing with the comments over there. Usually it's as long as you're not literally violating community guidelines or the very simple things we have out there, you're able to stay up on there. But if you're just here to shout about everything else around it and not actually talk about the things we're doing here, we want to have a discussion about the things that affect us here in the Borderland. And if you're just wanting to scream about anyone that disagrees with you or outlets you don't like here that aren't what we're actually talking about, probably gonna move on and you find yourself excused, just as that gentle reminder. Anyway, back to the of course visit that was coming up there. Again, a lot of audio clips that we were able to was out there on the tarmac as Air Force One arrived, and couldn't really hear the conversations. Apologies for the jet noise in the background, but it was staying spun up the whole time there, so it is what it is kind of thing. But also was able to get some interesting responses immediately from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who was, of course, part of the reception. The first one really down at the bottom of the ramp to then receive President Joe Biden. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar also did travel with the president on Air Force One from D.C. and then stayed in El Paso after the that visit. Well, Air Force One itself that went on to Mexico City for that series of meetings, summits, etc., that are going on today. But the first conversation was happening between the president and, Governor Greg Abbott, and was able to speak with him briefly afterwards because of what he was talking about that he initially ended up giving to the president. The governor gave to the president, that is, a letter saying, it starts off, Dear President Biden, your visit to our southern border with Mexico today is $20 billion too little and 2 years too late. That's how it goes on, and continues to then lay out from, again, his perspective. This is written by Governor Abbott, of course, that various important points to be made here, but the real crux of it is 5 specific policy positions that Governor Abbott says either need to be or can be implemented right now. I'll just read the intro paragraph for that part, saying, all of this is happening because you have violated your constitutional obligation to defend the states against invasion through faithful execution of federal laws. Halfway through your presidency, although I can finally welcome you to the border, when you finish the photo ops in a carefully stage-managed version of El Paso, you have a job to do. Bullet point 1. You must comply with the many statutes mandating that various categories of aliens shall, quote unquote, shall be detained and end the practice of unlawfully paroling aliens en masse. You must stop sandbagging the implementation of the Remain in Mexico policy and Title 42 expulsions and fully enforce those measures as the federal courts have ordered you to do. That was number 2. Number 3, you must aggressively prosecute illegal entry between ports of entry and allow ICE to remove illegal immigrants in accordance with existing federal laws. Number 4, you must immediately resume construction of the border wall in the state of Texas using the billions of dollars Congress has appropriated for that purpose. And number 5, you must designate the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And it closes with this: on behalf of all Americans, I implore you, secure the border by enforcing Congress's immigration laws. Sincerely, Greg Abbott, Governor, Texas. So this has been posted around, of course, but for those of you who haven't seen it, it does go on a bit more in some of the intro paragraphs about kind of detailing from, again, Governor Abbott's perspective, the problems, the issues, the differences between administrations, among other things. And also brings up things such as trafficking, fentanyl, and of human beings, etc. So that's certainly a part of the conversation going on there, and was able to speak with him a little bit afterwards. Some questions that we had, essentially plain side. So again, apologies for the plane noise, but is what it is. So here's one of the things he said about kind of initial expectations and why he showed up and responses to the visit as it was. This again, Governor Abbott speaking, essentially within definitely earshot of Air Force One.
The president who caused the chaos on the border needed to be here. It just so happens he's 2 years and about $20 billion too late. He needs to step up and take swift action, including reimbursing the state of Texas for the money that we spent, but providing more resources for the federal government to do its job. Also, this is nothing but for show unless he begins to enforce the immigration laws already that exist in the United States of America that are contained in the letter that are provided to the president today.
So a little bit more context on his interpretation of how the letter was being handled, but he goes a little bit further into it in one of the further questions.
We'll see what happens. Here's the deal. He's never called me to talk to me about the immigration issue. Now I provided him a letter that provides tangible, concrete solutions that will stop illegal immigration. And I expect him to call to me, and that's what Secretary Mayorkas also said.
I will say that Governor Abbott did say that the president was cordial and seemed receptive to the letter. Obviously didn't have a chance to read it immediately there. There was a lot more of the greeting and then loading up and going. So a lot more has been said about that letter today. But then Governor Abbott, that is, did go on to talk a little bit further about what actually is about the implementation of what he suggested in the letter.
Those changes will probably do nothing more than entice more illegal immigration. You have to implement the policies in my letter to stop illegal immigration and to begin on the process that what he wants to work on. But that first starts with detaining those who are here illegally, as opposed to letting them go on an amnesty program. It means deporting those who cross the border illegally between the points of entry. It means doing what the federal courts have ordered him to do, which is to implement the Remain in Mexico policy as well as Title 42 policy, and going back and continuing to build the border wall in the state of Texas using the taxpayer money already dedicated to building that border wall.
And the context for that question as well was asking about what about the policy positions that have already been put into place by the president. And that's where they, I think it was a subtle chuckle at the beginning of that answer. Another one that he talked about, what about the policies that have already been in place? I mean, there is he explicitly mentions the Remain in Mexico and Title 42 policies. So here's a little bit more about what Governor Abbott says that he wants to see actually done with that, even as we do have the whole legal limbo situation continuing on.
Not only do I encourage it, we were part of the lawsuit forcing the federal governments to require him to do it. It's more than encouragement. He is required as president by the laws to maintain Title 42 in place and enforce it.
So that's a little bit of what there was a lot of talk here. I got the best answers that I could. One specific question that I wanted to make sure to ask of Governor Greg Abbott was about, a previous letter he has actually sent, one that he had sent to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton asking for, this was even before the local disaster declaration was put into place and the aspects of Operation Lone Star that we now have present locally were coming up. And that was essentially asking for further investigation into American, U.S.-based NGOs for any possible participation into the situation we've got now. Cross-border kind of was the major sense of it. We talked about that previously on the program. So I put that question to him, and here is what he had to say about essentially what is he expecting to find from such an investigation.
We'll find out. We've seen stories that suggest there's a coordination between NGOs in Mexico as well as NGOs in the United States. And if there is, they know that they're working on illegal immigration. And we just need to the Attorney General needs to do the research and find out exactly what's going on. And if anything is illegal is going on, needs to prosecute it. Thank y'all very much.
So that was one of the last questions we got out of Governor Abbott before he ended up departing from the arrival area. We were on one of the kind of warehouses directly next to the El Paso International Airport. Very similar place for those who recall the coverage we did of that when President Trump arrived in town immediately after August 3rd back in 2019. So very much in that same kind of vein. So if you can imagine the backdrop there, we have some pictures up on our social media, the mountains in the backdrop and otherwise the wide tarmac area. Very, it's not the exact same building in the same row of buildings, so very much in that same area. So those were some of the things coming out initially. I mean, there's a whole lot more finer points that have been gotten into and that I'm sure we can also discuss. I got to say that at least in my analysis of what has come out so far and the immediate aftermath of this visit, at least from Governor Greg Abbott's perspective, it makes a level of sense that focus on the illegal entry that is the crossing of the border in between ports of entry in order to seek asylum. That is a debate that is continuing on, and there were some further points made by, well, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, among others. We also have some clips we'll be playing from that, including some questions I was able to ask of her and of the assembled in the aftermath of the visit itself, as well as the news conference that was going on there. But it makes a level of sense that the illegal entry aspect is what Governor Abbott and therefore state government is very much focused on, because that is what has been, it's not exactly a cornerstone, but a very firm basis point for most of the Operation Lone Star efforts at various points in time, including the state level prosecutions that have happened. So that is why I think that is going to continue to be a focus of the state level efforts, that again, the illegal entry specifically. And so I feel that that will probably still be continuing to be a very strong touchstone of all of the state level policies under, well, in terms of the rest of Abbott's time in office, unless anything else changes there. So, and also that last question, I want to make sure to answer it or have it answered, because that is going to be a point that we're going to be exploring a little bit later in the week. We will be talking with the Hope Border Institute, one of the local nonprofit groups that's more on the research side of things and kind of under the auspices of the diocese. They are in its own way, faith-based organization, and so they do their own kind of work towards it, again, a lot more research-based. So some of those questions directly relevant to those kind of efforts and what will be coming up with that. So that'll be coming up for you a little bit later this week, so stay tuned for that. So that's kind of a preview, that question, and we'll have response to that as well. So there's a lot more to get to, but I have talked straight through this next break right now. Coming out of this next break, we're going to be having more with, well, what was said afterwards. Some of those questions that you will all have asked, response from, say, Congresswoman Escobar and Mayor Oscar Leeser about, well, one of those things that was brought up, the idea of the clearing out, those questions. Goes on getting some of those answers that were asked during the news conferences. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You are, of course, tuned into us on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone lines open a little bit later, as we usually do. A lot of comments coming in. Okay, I kind of neglected these segments. We'll get to more of those questions coming up, I promise, along with some of the clips. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, if you're with us on air, online, however you're tuning in, phone lines later, break right now. And in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. 8 U.S. senators are visiting the El Paso border today due to the ongoing migrant crisis. Senior U.S. Senator John Cornyn from Texas and Kirsten Sinema from Arizona are leading their Senate colleagues on a tour of the southwest border to survey the current state of the border. The senators will then participate in a roundtable discussion with officials from the city, local nonprofits, law enforcement, business, and other stakeholders. Then following that discussion, the senators will briefly tour the school, which was converted to serve as one of the city's emergency migrant facilities, where they will see the temporary migrant care accommodations and services. The senators will also receive briefings from U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the National Border Patrol Council, as well as the Texas National Guard and DPS, to discuss federal and state efforts to secure the border, and they will also tour the processing center. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Yandell Drive west of Cotton Street, a police incident in the area. El Paso police asking you to avoid that area. Westbound on Artcraft approaching the I-10, there's an accident at Behringer Street, an injury accident Copia at Pershing, and a crash with injuries Sunland Park westbound at Cadiz. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Lows tonight dropping down into the 30s to lower 40s. As we look to our Tuesday, a nice mild one for tomorrow afternoon. Highs upper 60s to lower 70s. And then we do get a little gustier midweek. Breezy to windy conditions on Wednesday. Cooler with a high around 63 degrees. And cooler yet for your Thursday with mostly sunny skies. We'll see a high around 57 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com.
Staples helps you start the new year off right with big savings on everything you need for your business. Now, Staples Reward members get $30 back in a Staples store bonus when they spend $100. Rewards members only. Store bonus redeemable in store only. Offer ends 1/21. Save big at Staples.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Big news. The 2024 election could be America's last one. That's the shocking conclusion of famed best-selling author David Horowitz. In his new book, The Final Battle, David Horowitz reveals a secret war underway in America. Democrats, woke culture, and a new generation are destroying our traditional culture and ending our freedoms. Horowitz says their plan is taking place in our schools, our churches, even in our military. This week, you need to watch David Horowitz on The Chris Salcedo Show as he reveals the real threat of Biden, Obama, the big media, and more. Horowitz names names. So tune in today to Newsmax for Chris Salcedo's special with David Horowitz. And make sure you get a copy of The Final Battle. Newsmax calls it the most important book of 2023. It's in bookstores everywhere. Or check out the free offer and save $28. Just go online to finalbattle611.com. That's finalbattle611.com to get your free copy today.
Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
There are things that go together that make mornings better. Coffee and cream, bacon and eggs, pancakes and syrup.
Let's take a look at traffic and weather together.
Traffic and weather, yeah. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio. Updates all day long.
General things like that help me get through my day.
Before you head out, get together with our traffic and weather. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
Makes driving more difficult.
This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed.
Shouldn't we listen?
They're hungry.
News Radio, 690 KTSM.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Most of the time, traffic is pretty good. But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost, but more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And that's, we mentioned those because that's where people can leave their comments, and a lot of people have been doing so, dropping those likes and reactions right now. We do have John Browson and Flaco Jimenez, Ida Beza Gardner, Jerry Hart, Ambrabanda and Bernadette Banda-Cole. And a lot of interesting commentary coming in, particularly about the visit so far here, including Eric von Holstein-Rathlow talking about the letter, saying that I think Biden treating Governor Abbott very disrespectfully. He could have spent some time with him discussing policy, but instead he allowed him to pass him a note. I'm sure it got filed. Everything that happened was pre-planned and choreographed in every detail. I mean, to a certain extent, that is the nature of a presidential visit. There's not a whole lot of going off scripts. I mean, okay, so I was at the airport before the arrival. There were certain strict arrival deadlines. I'm glad I wasn't one of the TV crews that had to go out there because they had to pre-position any large equipment, quote unquote, by 9:30 that morning in anticipation of the rest of it. So I made sure that me with my little DSLR here that I got do have handy. This is what I've taken some of those pictures on, and voice recorder that I was holding with an outstretched arm in Governor Greg Abbott's face once he got here. It's how it works. It's fine. You had to get close to him, be able to get over the jet noise. Didn't have to go through that. But, I mean, if you were, again, trying to go on anywhere around town again, 54 was the primary focus, and even just headed out that way to the airport where the arrival was happening, I was kind of chuckling to myself, thinking like, oh, yeah, if anyone didn't get that message, because I kind of told y'all that I didn't have concrete plans, but I would expect to just not be able to use 54 during those three-ish hours it ended up being of the visit, because there were so many pre-positioned police, state trooper, and other law enforcement vehicles all along that way. And they did not, I got to say, they did not mess around with how they actually dealt with the blocking off of it. It wasn't just like a cop car in front of the off-ramp from I-10 up to 54. It was a full-on like gravel truck blocking the entire, like there was no physical way to get a vehicle through there unless you're bringing your own dump truck to ram through it. Not that I'd recommend that, but like that's the level of preparation to going in. So, I mean, sure, if you're using choreograph in the, I guess the kind of pejorative sense in this case, you're entitled to your opinion, but yeah, these things are very elaborately planned out. So take that for what you will, but that's just kind of par for the course anytime this happens. There's not a lot of, no, wait, I want to get a Slurpee. Let's stop at that 7-Eleven there. Nah, if that wasn't pre-vetted, pre-cleared, everything, it's not a part of that. There's not a whole lot of going off script when it comes to these kind of situations, I gotta say. So take that for what you will, but a lot of talk about the optics of it, more than a couple references to Dog and Pony Show going on in the comments there. And Lupinato mentioning Irene Ramadatis Jackson wasn't able to be in the same areas that she was there, but previous candidate or GOP nominee, I should say, for the Texas 16 congressional district was leading a protest and doing some videos kind of things, was aware of that going on around it. And RJ also quoting at least I think part from that letter as well, saying the Abbott hammer $20 billion too little and 2 years too late. That was definitely something that was referenced as well. And RJ also referring to saying it specifically that knowing that Biden hated the optics of having Abbott hand him a big F report card and saying why he got an F. I guess that's an interesting interpretation. That's not exactly how Abbott himself, as you heard from some of those clips, was putting it here. He was kind of portraying it as specific policy proposals, though I don't know if the way he was speaking actually to me and the assorted news outlets there was as maybe as charitable as the language itself in that letter reads, because yeah, it is pretty uncompromising or harsh might be a better way to put it, what it actually comes to in the letter. But a lot of comments along the lines of style over substance with this visit, which I mean, yeah, I could see how some would have that concern about it. And okay, one question coming up here. John Hurt saying that if El Paso can remove the criminals for the clown in chief's visits, so there's not a lot of generosity of language here, then El Paso can remove them permanently. So that is part of what definitely was then addressed by some of the other commentators. And that question was specifically asked of Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, as well as responded to by Mayor Oscar Leeser, and also have some other releases I'm going to be able to cite here coming up from CBP and other regional agencies along those lines, kind of addressing that point here. But tell you what, we got to end up taking that next break right now. So we're going to hold off for just one more segment here and open up those phone lines. We'll definitely do it at the top of the hour. That's my promise to you, but it's going to come back. I want to play you some of those clips so you can hear for yourself what elected officials still in the region had to say essentially about that concept, that idea, that concern about what the optics were, what was the enforcement going on that was addressed. So I want to make sure to play that for you all so you can hear it as well. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. So hold off on for just one more second on those phone lines. Not to open them right now as we usually do, but we will still be doing that second hour of the program. Don't you worry, because I know there's a lot to be said out there. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No major collisions on your El Paso freeways. It's a little slow on Memorial Highway, the loop southbound between the Spur and Montana Avenue with 5-minute delays. Montana Avenue eastbound at Sunfire, an accident reported. Police are responding to a crash Railroad Drive southbound at Diana. And we're still seeing stop-and-go traffic northbound Zaragoza from the loop up past Edgemere with 7-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Discover. We could talk about how complicated other banks make it to redeem credit card rewards. Or we could talk about how with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
An orthopedic surgeon makes understanding pain painless. It's the biggest frustration that patients have. This is Dr. Pamela Mehta talking about aches with unexpected origins. I see patients with pain in their knees, their hips, their back. Oftentimes, the pain is actually coming from their feet. Bet they aren't expecting to hear that. Those patients are super surprised. They can't believe that the pain in their knee isn't coming from actually inside the knee. But if you think about it, the feet are the base to your whole body. That's why she suggests personally fit arch supports. Emphasis on the personal fit. If you get something basing it just on your shoe size, it isn't going to fit you properly. And if it doesn't fit well, it probably won't work well. Go get arch supports fitted to you. It's as easy as going into a Good Feet store. You heard the doctor. Try Good Feet for yourself with a free fitting and test walk. Learn more at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea with just the click of a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Visit InspireSleep.com to learn more.
Hey, Texas, there are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
Staples Print and Marketing is committed to quality and printing perfect every time. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing materials order of $50 or more. Offer ends 2/11. See staples.com/store/printing for details. Try Staples and see the difference.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter.
A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get at us here, and we'll have those phone lines open here shortly. But I wanted to make sure we got to some more critical clips about responding to some of those situations yesterday. Of course, one of the things that was mentioned in Governor Greg Abbott's letter, I kind of got to it a little bit, but to put a little bit more succinctly, let me say here that in the first paragraph about the third actual sentence, even the city you visit has been sanitized of the migrant camps which have overrun downtown El Paso because your administration wants to shield you from the chaos that Texans experience on a daily basis. Goes on to say that his chaos is the direct result of your failure to enforce the immigration laws that Congress enacted. So that question obviously came up during the news conference after the visit itself. Now, there's a lot of talk by the different elected officials and local leaders that were a part of that news conference. Again, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, Congresswoman Gonzalez, not Tony Gonzalez, but from further down the Rio Grande Valley, as well as Mayor Oscar Leeser, County Judge Ricardo Samaniego, the CEO of the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, as well as some Bishop Mark Seitz and one of his religious colleagues, I believe, from across the border as well. But a specific question that was then asked to Congresswoman Veronica Escobar was essentially on that issue, that concern, that idea that there was any kind of cleanup, sanitization in advance of the president's visit here. So I have a couple of clips of her specific responses to that. So here's how she initially responded to the question along those lines.
So, Andrew, you saw an
That's the wrong one. Here's the right one.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then, and I'll pass it over to the mayor. Here's what I will share with you on a couple of fronts, on the federal front and the NGOs, what the NGOs have been doing.
So the first clip you heard there, the first little snippet of it, that's a question I was able to ask of the Congresswoman a little bit later on about chances. So we'll get into that as well. Don't worry, but I want to make sure to play out a few more of these, including what she was describing as what had been going on in advance of the visit. And we have had previous releases come in from CBP and Border Patrol about essentially enforcement efforts happening on the streets of El Paso. Part of the argumentation was essentially made that if this is what is being desired to be seen about not having people on the streets, that this would be along the lines of what Abbott was kind of asking for. But she went on to continue on to Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, that is, about essentially what is the scope of operations that is usually being undertaken anyway.
Many of the migrants that have surrounded Sacred Heart Church kind of know where it's considered still a sensitive area. Not sure how they know, but they clearly know.
Referring there to the idea that there is not kind of universal enforcement in all same places. They stay away from like shelters and or religious institutions in order to kind of like violate the purpose and sanctity of them. Not exactly her words, but that's kind of the concept here. And then went on to say about, so she talked about both from the NGO as well as the more federal efforts, continuing on here.
What has happened also, as you all might know, is that more of the encampments were happening, for example, at the Greyhound bus station, at areas further away from Sacred Heart Church. And I was alerted by Border Patrol that there would be respect for the sensitive areas, but anything outside of that, there would probably be enforcement. And this was some time ago, long before we knew the president was
coming. Their clip ended up a little bit shortly there. One thing, I think it's the last one we'll be able to play for this hour, and we'll still go ahead and open up the phone lines, what we do, but kind of the idea of what the enforcement action actually has been. Again, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar speaking here.
I have been in regular communication with NGOs, and the NGOs are convincing families to get off the street, to get into certain shelters, to get into safer places. They, in fact, I just got a report yesterday about pretty significant success that they have been having in convincing many of those families to move to safer areas.
So essentially, those two major parts that she was discussing there, that being Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, about what has happened in the downtown and South Central El Paso areas, what has been seen on the streets, that there have been enforcement efforts outside of sensitive areas, and that there have been essentially efforts on behalf or by part of NGOs, nonprofits, etc., to convince people to leave the streets. We have previously, of course, talked about the fact that there was some wariness about entering into some shelters because of concern of enforcement actions happening in them, particularly of those that apparently didn't qualify due to restrictions on entrance into them, including documentation, paperwork, etc. So those parts of what being put forth there. There's more that we also have from the mayor, but tell you what, we got to take that next break right now to go ahead and be able to hit the top of the hour. And as promised, we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as well. So we'll still got a couple more clips that we will play for you at the top of the next hour, but we'll go ahead and get those phone lines open as well if you want to start adding your 2 cents. That way, we'll get into more of the comments as well. But if you want to get on the line there, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No major collisions on your El Paso freeways. It's a little slow on Memorial Highway, the loop southbound between the Spur and Montana Avenue with 5-minute delays. Montana Avenue eastbound at Sunfire, an accident reported. Police are responding to a crash Railroad Drive southbound at Diana. And we're still seeing stop-and-go traffic northbound Zaragoza from the loop up past Edgemere with 7-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This is the Piketon Massacre, return to Pike County.
New details into what was uncovered at the gruesome crime scenes in Pike County.
Accused murderer George Wagner faces a judge and jury.
No Wagner family DNA was found at the crime scene.
Will he face the death penalty or will he walk free?
This case is about to blow wide open.
Listen to the Piketon Massacre Season 4. Trials begin on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, folks, Cash Blitz scratch games from the Texas Lottery are here for you right now, and you want to check them out because you could win top prizes from $5,000 all the way up to $1 million. You can enter for a chance to win a VIP trip to an iHeartRadio event or concert. If you're listening to us, you probably might enjoy that, but also win a trip to Austin to play the $10 million Cash Blitz Challenge and attend the iHeart Country Festival. Play today and be sure to visit TexasLottery.com for all the details.
Want to know what I like best about high school sports? I love watching my son run on the field. I love seeing him smile when he high-fives his teammates. I love seeing his eyes light up when his team scores a goal. I love the fact that since he's been playing high school sports, he's making better decisions. And I love knowing that high school sports have never been safer. Why? Because coaches have more information than they've ever had. Training techniques are more sophisticated, and equipment has never been more advanced. Playing high school sports isn't just safe. It's still the best way to give your teenager a healthy head start in life. And that's something I really love.
This message about the value of high school sports is presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors
News on the hour
Association.
and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin is back home at a new hospital. University of Cincinnati Medical Center physician Dr. William Knight says Hamlin's recovery will continue back in Buffalo.
He is doing well, and this is the beginning of the next stage of his recovery.
Hamlin is recovering at Buffalo General Medical Center. On Sunday, Hamlin posted pictures and updates on social media as he watched the Bills' regular season finale against the New England Patriots. Hamlin collapsed on the field during the Bills game against the Cincinnati Bengals last week after suffering cardiac arrest. Physicians said it's too early to know if Hamlin will be able to play football again. A town on the central coast of California is being evacuated because of mudslides, exactly 5 years after similar slides killed 20 people. Everyone in Montecito is being told to flee now as heavy rains break mud and rocks loose. That town of 10,000 people is home to many celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey. Opening statements were held Monday in the trial for a man accused of killing 8 people with a rental truck on Manhattan's West Side bike path in New York City. Federal prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for Sayfullo Saipov, who they say fatally struck pedestrians and cyclists on Halloween in 2017. Consumer confidence in housing is on the rise. Lisa Taylor reports.
Fannie Mae's monthly housing sentiment showed it went up last month from November. The report saw the share of people saying now is a good time to buy a home go up 21%. The number of consumers who believe housing prices will fall and mortgage rates will come down over the next year or so also increased. Meanwhile, 51% said now is a good time to sell, down from 54%.
The American Academy of Pediatrics has released new guidelines for treating childhood obesity for the first time in 15 years. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. More than 7,000 nurses at 2 New York City hospitals are on strike. Scott Pringle reports.
After months of negotiations, nurses at Montefiore in the Bronx and Mount Sinai's main Manhattan campus walked off the job. Nurse Lilia says it's not only about better pay, but also higher staffing levels.
We're not able to give the quality care that our patients deserve, and we have been begging for help for a long time.
Montefiore released a statement saying it offered the same raises as other hospitals and new nursing positions. Ambulances are being rerouted and some procedures are being postponed and temporary staffing is being brought in.
NASA says a defunct satellite has crashed to Earth after nearly 40 years in orbit. The Earth Radiation Budget satellite, known as ERBS, was launched in 1984 aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. It helped researchers learn how our planet absorbed and radiated energy from the sun. The Department of Defense confirmed its re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere over the Bering Sea late last night. It's unclear if any parts of the satellite survived. Roughly a third of Americans have stopped going to church. More from Mark Mayfield.
That's according to a new study on how COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns impacted the attendance of religious services in the U.S. The American Enterprise Institute found that in the spring of 2022, 33% of Americans reported they never attend church. That number was at 25% before the pandemic.
Netflix is releasing the first trailer for the 4th season of its hit series, You. It stars Penn Badgley as Joe, a serial killer who fronts as a bookstore manager. The 4th season will follow Joe as he flees to London, posing as a literature professor when another serial killer begins committing murders and appears to go after him as well. The first part of season 4 will release on Netflix on February 9th. The second part of the new season will then debut on March 9th. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bills. That's bills. Enter it now.
The music we listen to all year long. The anthems that were our soundtrack for 2022. And the stars who made the songs we love will all be celebrated.
Live from Los Angeles on Fox.
March 27th.
Let's get it started. Be here as this year's nominees are unveiled. Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Join Brian Birds of eXp Realty Sunday mornings at 7:30 for Real Estate Tips with Brian. Every week, Brian shares expert insights on the current market, along with advice to make buying and selling a home a stress-free experience. Tune in Sunday mornings at 7:30 a.m. for Real Estate Tips with Brian.
Take El Paso, have you heard? To sell your home, guaranteed. Call Brian Birds. Go to BrianBirds.com.
The Good Feet Store, improving people's lives 2 feet at a time.
Follow the Bible in a Year with Jack Graham podcast today.
Begin your New Year's resolution with the Bible and see why millions have already started Bible in a Year with Jack Graham.
This podcast was created to help you solidify your faith as you experience the story of the Bible through live action recordings and emotional orchestral music.
Listen to Bible in a Year with Jack Graham on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, we have a lot of conversations going on today, but it all pretty much centers around the either yesterday's visit or the ongoing one today. A lot of focus on the Borderland this week. It's start of it, if you haven't noticed already, but with the President Biden coming through town yesterday for 3 hours and change, I think would probably be the best way to put it there. But then also we have the Senate group coming through town right now. 8 senators specifically coming through here, including Texas Senator John Cornyn, the senators from Arizona. I would previously both Democrat, but Kyrsten Sinema, now the independent of Arizona, which, by the way, that brief period of time I was out of town earlier, that's when I was in Tucson, just happened to be the day that got announced. So I'm not saying I caused news, but it seems to always follow me in ways that I can't talk about it on air. It's annoying enough to me. But anyway, also the senators, Republican James Lankford of Oklahoma, Mark Kelly of Arizona, Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, Chris Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut, Jerry Morgan, Republican of Kansas, and Chris Coons, Democrat of Connecticut, going through the area roundtable and some discussions being held today and a joint press conference. So I'm sure we'll have more on that for you tomorrow. So, yep, stay tuned for more on that. But, okay, I wanted to make sure that before we got too much further, we do have those phone lines open, full up at the moment, but if you want to get on the line, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Did want to make sure to add in the perspective of what Mayor Oscar Leeser said about, again, the idea of a cleanup, sanitization, however you want to put it, having happened in the area ahead of the presidential visit. So what his input started was this.
2 nights ago, I went to Sacred Heart area, and there's a lot of asylum seekers sleeping in the street, in the alleys, so they were still there. I went again last night. They're still there. As a matter of fact, we actually, because of the number of people that are still there, we actually put a second bus because we call those warming stations.
And so went on to talk about essentially putting forth that there have been many places in downtown. There was the one that I saw going on social media, a picture of a street kind of before and after there were things gone through here. But essentially the mayor put that is because, sure, there were some CBP efforts of this. I also saw videos on social media of this being done by like local police as well. At the very least, police vests, the blazoned police on the back of it. So this is what Mayor Oscar Leeser went on to say.
Now, we did clean up the area where you see the bus station was, because we need to be really careful that we don't start any type of pandemic and reusing the blankets and keeping the blankets on the street. And that's something that we're really working on to make sure that we continue to provide clean blankets, clean up the areas, and move the areas. So,
and finally, most relevant clip from that part here. Again, this from Mayor Oscar Leeser.
We do 3 times a day. We actually go over there and we even talk to them and try to get them to go into shelters and get off the street, because that's not we want to protect them, but we're also want to make sure the community is safe. So it's
so that referring to the efforts to essentially entice or convince people that are sleeping on the streets, staying on the streets, to move off of that, particularly in the in mass numbers that we have been talking about there. So that's some of the things, that's certainly not to exhaustion of the many subjects that were brought up yesterday, including I tell you, we might have to kick it to tomorrow. Question that I asked of the Congresswoman about what kind of is the plan? Because she was very much, in the later questions, focusing on the idea of congressional action being necessary and the can having been kicked down the road for decades now being a problem. So I asked a little bit about kind of the realities of what can or might be happening when it comes to those, given what has happened in D.C., which, by the way, just feel relevant to mention at this point. We do have a Speaker of the House now, finally took 15 votes. And I want to say that Kevin McCarthy, now Speaker of the House, said, well, that was easy, wasn't it? More or less a direct quote there. But in any case, let's get back to those phone lines now. A whole lot more to talk about. So if you want to add your 2 cents, again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Let's jump straight on the line here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. There's this great proverb in the Bible. I don't know what section because I'm not a Bible thumper.
Okay.
But it starts off where it says, whomever shall ruin their house will inherit the wind, and the fool who does so will be a servant to the wise. Now, you got to tweak that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Be a servant under the current circumstances with this last week nonsense going on in the House of Representatives. Forget the wise part. We'll be a servant to the whack jobs. Now, what do you think of them apples? Now, having said that,
mm-hmm.
I was watching JB going out there on the border. I mean, he's not going to do anything. He's just saying, this is a photo op. Come on, give me a break. This is so simple to fix. I've mentioned this to you before, and everybody else out there in the Southwest border. You can fix this thing within a week. Now, you have to set aside a number of recognized laws, one of which the most important is due process. But you want to fix
mm-hmm.
this thing, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, you're going to be going down the same path every single day, and it ain't going to get any better. So that's my opening comment.
Okay, see what you're saying there. And by the way, I did get a question in with Congresswoman Veronica Escobar. Unfortunately, by the time I was able to speak with her, wasn't able to put forth your suggestion of how to resolve the speaker issue because it had finally already happened by that point here. But I guess I'll tell you what, I'll promise that we'll play that one tomorrow because she does address what has been going on in the House of Representatives and kind of expectations that'll come after it and any future legislation. So wasn't able to totally bring up your suggestion there, though I'm sure there'll be plenty more we'll talk about along those lines.
Well, that's great that you at least passed it off. I'm beyond excited that you even did that. So I'm going to be tuned in, as you well know, and play what she did say with or without my suggestion. So that's really great. I saw her on a tarmac. She's a very, very handsome woman. Very, very good looking. You guys in El Paso should be very, very pleased that you've got a good looking babe like that representing you. That's what I want to say there.
Yeah, sure. I won't necessarily disagree with you. That's not usually the way I evaluate elected officials is usually holding a beauty contest, but if that's important to you, yeah, sure, go for it. But there are some specific policy things that she also was putting forth on kind of what legal changes could be coming forth. And really the question that I asked was, what are the odds given the makeup, given the, divided chambers at this point of what will be coming? So that's kind of the teaser for that on for tomorrow, because yeah, there's a lot of expectations of what will be happening in this new session of Congress that has become there, which I also feel relevant at this point to mention. We got the legislative session for the state of Texas starting tomorrow, so that's probably going to be a lot of what we're talking about in the coming weeks, months, eventually years, but I mean, the next 6 months, give or take. I mean, it's till May, strictly speaking, on that one, but there's going to be a lot of interplay there because as much as we're talking a lot about the kind of national focuses with these visits going on by the president and the group of senators, you guys would bet my bottom dollar, as much as the idea of betting on politics still kind of freaks me out, that there's going to be a lot of immigration focus funding coming up there. And just one last thing I want to mention on that point here, that some of the estimates of the budget that is going to be a part of this legislative session, well, it's not totally going to be the budget, but that there's about $188 billion, according to the Texas Tribune today, available for the next budget after record-breaking revenue growth. It's also noted by them that they by statute can't actually use all of that, but it's certainly going to. I mean, we were talking about there being some $500 billion part of it, and so that's definitely going to be. Oh God, it's going to be quite the crazy session. I am entirely positive about that.
Okay, uno momento here. Right? I am not saying on a cardinal rule basis that somebody has got to be absolutely gorgeous or handsome to become a representative in our great democracy. I'm just saying that as an aside. She could look like Quasimodo's sister, for crying out loud. But as long as she has got the brain, not like that George Santos nut job, but she is smart. She's very smart. I think she's a very, very, very good representative for you folks in the funky little town of El Paso. So that's all I want to say.
Fair enough. I wasn't taking that as the only qualification, just as one that I'm not usually thinking of. But again, you're entitled to your opinion that way here. So thank you very much for the coin and the call. Do appreciate it.
All right, you take a good one. We'll see you.
All right. And with that, we'll go ahead after I played some of those clips here. We still got the phone lines open. Don't worry. We'll get more to those. Also have some comments that are coming in that we'll get to dive into those as well. But in any case, got to take that next break. First one of this hour, but still doing more of the calls, comments, etc. coming out of this. I think we've squeezed on all the clips that we can for today. Don't worry. But again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso police on the scene of an accident involving a couple of vehicles. I-10 westbound at the red exit. Gateway west at Hawkins. Another crash. All lanes are open, though, there. Slow traffic on the spur. Liberty Expressway eastbound from the Gateway to the Loop. It's a 6-minute delay. And watch for an injury accident. Zaragoza south of the 10 Gateway at Escobar Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Winning $1,000 incites all kinds of emotions.
Are you kidding? No way.
What to do with it is up to you.
We're going to Key West. That's it. What are you nuts? We're going to Atlantic City.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enter the nationwide keyword at ktsmradio.com for your chance to win. Brought to you by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where buying a car is fun.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com. Hey, Texas! This time of year is all about coming together and enjoying time-honored holiday traditions or starting your own. This winter, make sure your fellow Texans, especially those with a serious mental health condition, know how to stay informed and protected from increased COVID-19 risks associated with serious mental illness. Getting vaccinated is pro-Texan protection against COVID-19. Visit www.vaccines.gov/search to find a vaccine provider near you.
At Staples, you can count on every project being print perfect, guaranteed.
I need presentations and brochures printed, and they have to be perfect.
Your bounded presentations, brochures with the finest folds, and more will be done right every time. That's our Print Big promise. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing materials order of $50 or more, plus 20% back by a store bonus. Try Staples and see the difference. Ends 2/11. Rewards members only. Bonus must be redeemed in store. See staples.com/stores/printbig for details.
Asthma symptoms can attack anywhere, like on a city street. Now you can get fast relief anywhere with new improved Primatene Mist, the only FDA-approved asthma inhaler available over the counter. So whether you need relief of symptoms at the park or at your kitchen table, Primatene Mist starts working quickly, opening up your airways to restore free breathing. For temporary relief of mild symptoms of intermittent asthma, use Primatene Mist and breathe easy again. Available at CVS, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. Use as directed.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeart Radio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot to be brought up there, but again, reminder, since we seem to be getting more issues with our comments than we've had in a bit here, usually have it as a pretty much, you can state your opinion if you want there. Was going to violate the very simple community guidelines that either Facebook has, you might run into trouble with them before you even get to us, but also the idea of actually discussing things. So if you're just cussing someone out here, the very least the comments are going to be hidden. But if you're going to continue doing that and choosing that as your way you're wanting to talk about it, hey, you can do whatever you want, but we're also going to keep this trying to like have actual discussion, because if it's just swearing back and forth, I've had plenty of those kind of discussions in my life, and we certainly can't have it on air because we have other regulations we have to follow, but also like seriously, we're just trading F-bombs back and forth here. Oh yeah, that's real riveting conversation, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying that it has to be necessarily, you have to be bringing forth your totally top level educated points here, but you're not actually discussing things. Again, it's going to be hidden, it's going to be removed, and you might find yourself doing that as well, because those are the very simple policies that we have in place. So let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to get online, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Daniel on the east side here with us right now. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
How are you there? I haven't talked to you in a while now.
Yeah, doing all right there. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to make a couple points, and maybe people can hear me and
sure.
Can take or maybe they can agree with me. And if they do agree with me, then they know who they need to call so that we can change what's going on. Number one, on the immigrant thing,
mm-hmm.
The people that are hanging around the churches and outside with their families and kids, they don't want to go to the shelters and this and that. Number one, they're doing it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that reason is?
Well,
So
what's your perspective on it?
A place to stay, or get them an airplane ticket to wherever it is that they want to go now, right? Or stay in El Paso, and for us to get an apartment downtown or wherever, and give them money. They got here without an honest reason. And I'll tell you why it's not an honest reason. Because there's a way to come to this country. They came to this country like robbers in the night. Therefore, they thought about this. You think that they decided to come to America all of a sudden? No, they planned it out. Each one of them, they came with a reason. They get here and they know how to play the system already because they've been taught. So they're not going to go into anybody. They're not going to go into a shelter. Then why would you go into a shelter if you can stay out in the streets long enough? They're going to give you a place to stay with your kid, and they're going to give you more money. One, two. When the idea that they put everybody in shelters so that Biden wouldn't see them, and you know what? Biden knew already. He knows what's going on. He's not that stupid, and he's not that old not to know. Number three, he's going down there to Mexico to meet over there, and they're going to talk about everything from commercial deals and so forth. But they're also going to talk about what? Immigrants, right? And
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a major focus of what's being talked about here, along the other things you said there. Yeah.
And you know what they're going to talk about? He's going to go to Los Pinos, which is the White House for the government. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to go there, and I guarantee you, he's going to pick up a little bit of money. You know why? Because where do you think that fentanyl and all those things come from? China. And he is very much involved with China. So is the Mexican president. So I'm sure he'll meet with them and somehow end up getting money because that's all he knows. He knows nothing. He is the most dishonest president we ever had. And I dare anybody to say that he's not. Right? Because everybody knows, and they've seen all the affidavits, and they've seen all the things. They even have pictures of the guy taken with all these Chinese guys. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about is when we give money to the root problem. Do you know that when we give money to any government, including Ukraine, we do not go in there and say, okay, we're going to give you money, and then we're going to audit where you spend and how you spend the money. Did you know that we don't do that by law?
I mean, it's been a long conversation. Some of the recent times, I remember that coming up even before Ukraine was essentially, I mean, the money that gets sent, I mean, part of the general appropriations bill. One that comes to mind and has been a subject of contention in its own way has been for frankly, Israel, that there is, money we send over there. But yeah, it's not like an itemized bill that we end up getting back from that, because, I mean, there are purposes we instruct them to, but well, it's essentially out of our hands at that point. So yeah, I'm not surprised that there are also, aspects of statute about it as well.
Exactly. So what happens? You go to Honduras, you go to Nicaragua, you go to Guatemala. I just dare people to go there, see the country, and then you'll know what's going on. And you know what? The root problem will never change, because we can pour money into those countries, and you know what? They're going to take that money, and the next day they'll be in Aruba, in a bank in Aruba, in a bank in the Bahamas, Turkish Caicos, you name it. Brazil. That's where the money ends up, and the people that live there are going to be still in the same boat that they are now. So we need to do something, and what we need to do is stop them from coming in. It's very simple as that. I don't understand. I don't understand Biden. I don't understand the Democrats, why they're saying this. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is, you know what they're saying about the House of Representatives? Finally,
right.
In America, we see a real democratic process go on.
Okay.
And that's what we just seen in the House of Congress. We just seen how a few people managed to get some changes that are needed for who? For us, we the people. Did you notice? Did you see if Biden had a town hall meeting, or Veronica had a town hall meeting in reference to the immigrants here, or the mayor, Lisa, or whatever his name is? No. No one spoke to the person, we, the people that walk around El Paso, that live on the east side, or that live in the central El Paso area, or that live downtown El Paso. Nobody spoke to them. I wonder why.
I mean, again, there's parts of the nature of the visit here, but I will say this, that a lot has been said about the House of Representatives. This will be definitely a session of Congress to pay, I mean, I pretty much always do, but maybe for the general as well, for a lot of people to pay more attention to, because this is probably going to be a very, I'm just going to call it interesting one from now on, whatever your perspective on it may be.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think that, rather than calling the Congress people a bunch of lunatics and a bunch of idiots and a bunch of, whatever they're calling them, rather than looking at it that way, let's look at it through the democratic way. Let's look at it. Congress is finally doing something. They're going to do something about the Appropriations Committee. They're going to do something about the vote. They're going to do something about what we, the people, want. So I'm happy about that. Well, as far as, the root problem, that will never be fixed.
I mean, yeah, I think some of the core issues involving Congress and its popularity or complete lack thereof may not be solved by this. I'm not sure if there is a good solution outside of, or just period, end of statement. I'm not sure there is a good solution, but again, this will be one we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. Again, we'll definitely have some more coming up tomorrow on the idea, the kind of the aftermath of these visits, and some clips I was able to ask about that to, say, Congresswoman Escobar. So we'll certainly talk more about that. But Daniel, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one there. So with that, tell you what, let's go ahead and take that next break. We'll get back and get to some more calls on the line, but we are going to talk further about this and the other issues. Still a lot of the stuff going on in our region, and that is affecting us here as we still got these visits going on. So again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. 8 U.S. senators are visiting the El Paso border today due to the ongoing migrant crisis. Senior U.S. Senator John Cornyn from Texas and Kirsten Sinema from Arizona are leading their Senate colleagues on a tour of the southwest border to survey the current state of the border. The senators will then participate in a roundtable discussion with officials from the city, local nonprofits, law enforcement, business, and other stakeholders. Then following that discussion, the senators will briefly tour the school, which was converted to serve as one of the city's emergency migrant facilities, where they will see the temporary migrant care accommodations and services. The senators will also receive briefings from U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the National Border Patrol Council, as well as the Texas National Guard and DPS, to discuss federal and state efforts to secure the border, and they will also tour the processing center. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
There's an accident off to the right, Gateway West at Hawkins. All lanes are open, just minor delays there. Another accident on I-10 westbound at the red exit. El Paso fires on the scene there. The spur is slow. Eastbound Liberty Expressway from the Gateway to the Loop, it's a 5-minute delay. And an injury accident downtown Franklin Avenue at Santa Fe. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Lows tonight dropping down into the 30s to lower 40s. As we look to our Tuesday, a nice mild one for tomorrow afternoon. Highs upper 60s to lower 70s. And then we do get a little gustier midweek. Breezy to windy conditions on Wednesday. Cooler with a high around 63 degrees. And cooler yet for your Thursday with mostly sunny skies. We'll see a high around 57 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Texas Health and Human Services. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. We all need supportive people and healthy outlets in our lives, so we don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you.
On the podcast, Hey Dude, the 90s Called, David Lasher and Christine Taylor, stars of the cult classic show Hey Dude, bring you back to the days of slip dresses and choker necklaces.
We're going to use Hey Dude as our jumping off point, but we are going to unpack and dive back into the decade of the 90s.
We lived it, and now we're calling on all of our friends to come back and relive it.
Listen to Hey Dude, the 90s Called on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Cash Blitz scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play for a shot at top prizes from $5,000 to $1 million. Plus, enter to win a VIP iHeart trip and more at TexasLottery.com.
Why do you buckle up when you get in your truck? Maybe you do it to get home safely to your loved ones, or because you take your job as a professional driver seriously, or because you want to follow the law to stay safe. Remember, it doesn't matter how long you've been driving, or even if it's a quick trip. Wear your seatbelt to stay safe on the road. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. That's www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. And remember to buckle up when you get behind the wheel. Paid for by FMCSA.
Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations. This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of ways to chime in, add your 2 cents, get the phone lines open, if full at the moment, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. James Radcliffe asking a question or putting forth a thought about the letter that Governor Greg Abbott sent, saying, I think Abbott also said there was Texas property owners, quote, whose lives have been destroyed by Biden's policies. Believe something along those lines, definitely in there. Tell you what, let me find that here for you real quick. I mean, I didn't read the letter to exhaustion because I wanted to focus on the major points of it, but that's, well, I want to say it was a line along those lines. Let me see if I can find that for you real quick because it's certainly relevant. Moreover, so again, the first line about the visit to the southern border, $20 billion too late in 2 years, $20 billion too little and 2 years too late. Goes on to say, moreover, your visit avoids the sites where mass illegal immigration occurs and sidesteps the thousands of angry Texas property owners whose lives have been destroyed by your border policies. So that's the, I think, the attribution you're looking at there. But there's a lot more to be talked about here. A couple more questions and comments that have come in over on the social media, including the idea of town halls not being good when it comes to this. I gotta say that's a weird line to take. The idea of saying no, we don't want to hear from people. The idea of sidestepping people's opinions because you don't like them, I think, is at least half the reason that we get into the way that these discussions go, and part of the reason we do what we do. Because if you're just saying, well, you got a bad opinion and therefore, you don't get to talk. That doesn't mean that the people don't hold that opinion. It means that you have just banished it from the areas that you inhabit, maybe, kind of, but it also means that these things can continue to go on. So if you're not actually discussing things with people, the whole echo chamber nature of most of social media and the internet these days, of people selecting their own sources and then outlets catering themselves to what people are most interested in here, is I don't think that has worked out well for us, or is continuing to. Anyway, sure, it gets people motivated, engaged, enraged, willing to buy stuff, but it's kind of not what we're going to do here. Anyway, let's get back to it. Just calling people's concerns invalid that's just the height of haughtiness, and saying, no, let them eat cake here. But it's just so, haughty is the best way I'm going to use it right now, and saying that, no, you don't deserve to be listened to. Really? I need you to listen to that. Anyway, let's get back to the phone lines here. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. What's on your mind?
The President Biden's visit to the border, yes, good idea. However,
Sure.
It was a view that was too sanitized.
So one of the things, and we didn't have that clip handy, but it was one of the things being said during the visit. And I guess the last caller kind of addressed the idea that, the president is not an idiot. He obviously gets intelligence. That was, maybe I'll try to pull that clip up for tomorrow, as I'm sure there'll be plenty more to break down, including the ones I've already promised to, about, say, the fact that pictures have been about. Okay, one concrete thing I want to say about that is that one thing that Mayor Oscar Leeser did say during his kind of wrap up of the visit is that he says that he's been going around taking pictures just on his cell phone of the situation in and around El Paso, primarily downtown, not too far from, of course, City Hall, and that he had just been doing these as part of his own, personal interest in documenting what's been going on in our area, but that in this specific case, once the visit became announced, he actually put these together into a book that he then handed to the president. So, and something further that Congresswoman Veronica Escobar said is that the president has seen the pictures that have been put forth here, so he's no stranger to the idea of it. Sure, there's the argument to be made about that. Therefore, the photo ops looked better without all of it. But I don't think it's any secret what has or probably will still continue to be going on in our area.
Well, a picture says 1,000 words. However, it's more poignant when you actually see it. There should have been a visit to South El Paso. Yes, I know it might have posed a security nightmare, but hey,
probably.
Then you can say, I've seen what these people are going through. I've seen the problem.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways it could be taken, the idea of it, and frankly, if you want to go with optics, going through a crowd of people and like shaking hands or that kind of thing would be a hell of a stamp to put on it. But I could also understand how I think I just heard coming from, the several thousand miles away that DC is, the thunderclap of the pucker that idea would have engendered. So I'm not surprised it didn't happen, but it may not. I think it would have made a decent photo if that's the real concern.
Well, Leeser's photo album or whatever, he put together, pure garbage. It should have been at least a video clip on a USB drive. Anyway, my next point was I think it was a bad move politically. I mean, it's bad optics when you come down here to an individual state and you don't invite the chief executive of that state to tour the border with you. And I'm talking about Governor Abbott not being with Biden.
So one of the other clips, I mean, again, we could have done this whole damn show, just important clips of things. So we had to pick and choose a few that I felt were most impacting. One thing that the governor did say on those points here, so we'll see if I'll make a note to try and pull this one up for tomorrow, is about essentially how this came about. And paraphrasing here, not directly quoting, but essentially what the governor said is that they got the call within the last couple of days, I think, essentially, that asking essentially if the governor would greet him or come to see him once he arrived there. So the idea of actually visiting with it, let's be honest, this was pretty clearly a administration, not a bipartisan visit. I would be curious to know if Abbott was at all involved with the senators that came through, but the way the meetings were going through here, the people that were traveling along with here, because, actually, fair point to be made also was that Congressman Henry Cuellar was also on Air Force One with the president here, but it's notable that they were all of the Democratic border ones. I don't know if I haven't seen anything from Congressman Tony Gonzalez from the Texas 23rd Congressional District, the next district over from the 16th here in Texas, if he was invited or not. But my supposition, without anything I can directly point to, is that no, just given the makeup of the trip. So I guess I'm not surprised that that's how it worked out, but I take your point in due stride as well.
Well, Andrew, people can spin it whichever way they want, but Abbott is the chief executive officer, the governor of this state. That should have been the first person you contacted and invited. I mean, to me, whatever the White House is putting out or the spin that they're putting out, that's pure garbage. And I won't use any harsher words due to FCC regulations.
I appreciate that greatly, and I'm not even saying that that's spin. That's just me looking at the kind of makeup and who was on this trip with him. So let's just say, well, I'm not surprised here. I will say that Tony Gonzalez did say some very similar kind of phrasing that the governor ended up using, saying, quote, while this trip to El Paso was a step in the right direction for President Biden, it comes 2 years too late, and goes on to talk about some of the other factors, 4 million migrant encounters, and closes with needless to say, I am underwhelmed by President Biden's photo op on the border. So nothing I can, again, concretely point to about him being invited or not, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he wasn't.
Yeah, well, it was deliberate. It is deliberate, but it's a political blunder. Now, I did hear your question to Veronica Escobar, and to paraphrase, I believe what you said, and I believe what you said was you asked the question about the possibility of any type of legislation coming out of the House.
Yeah, so that was, of course, during the news conference there, so you could have heard that from, say, our news partners over at KFOX 14. We weren't live streaming because I was mostly wanting to bring it out to y'all, and we've just kind of ran out of time for that clip today. But, yeah, that was the real substantive I was getting at, because she did say a couple of times in the progression of her initial statements or other questions that had come up about any kind of... She basically said that this has been a congressional failure as well. The fact that there hasn't been new substantive legislation passed in, I don't think she said decades, but that's the span of time we are definitely talking about at this point. So I wanted to focus a little bit further in on that about, okay, what are the possibilities and what do you see the way it going through? So yeah, we'll definitely talk more about essentially kind of, it's not really a roadmap she put forth, but a possible way that something could happen, maybe, sort of. We'll see. TBD.
Well, Well, I believe her response to you was claiming that the Republicans are controlled by extremists or something to that effect. Well, my response to that is that the Democrats the entire party is a bunch of left-wing extremists. So that's my response to her. If people want to get ugly in that area, but what we need to do concerning this immigration situation is start putting pressure on the country. What's his name? Mallorca says we need to investigate the root causes of this stuff. Well, the root cause is economic disparity, poverty. The UN needs to. We need to put the pressure on these countries vis-a-vis the UN, start holding these people accountable if they want to receive any further aid from us.
That kind of dovetails with a point from a previous caller as well about the foreign support payments, those kind of things, or even remittances. That's been one that has been brought up previously. It was kind of floated as an idea, maybe not officially by the administration, but during the Trump administration, the whole Mexico will pay for the wall thing about, okay, how can you force a foreign country to do anything for you besides applying pressure? So that's been one that has been brought up infrequently, but I've never actually seen anything concrete about it. But we'll tell you what, that's a whole other damn show about the way foreign influence work and the payments go, because simply put, from my perspective, it's not simply we'll stop paying you if you don't do what we want as okay, who else might step in and gain that influence? But that's another whole show, frankly.
Well, they're not going to let's say people will say, well, they can always seek China or aid from Russia. Well, they ain't going to like Vladimir helping them out, and they ain't going to like President Xi or whatever his name is, their policies. But anyway, Andrew, let me conclude this concerning these points. Okay, as I've said before, you can write volumes of what people don't tell you.
That's absolutely true, and why we kind of try to speak between the lines, or at least analyze what's going on and what the importance of it is to us here. And there's going to be a lot more to break down as we get through the coming weeks, months, and onward.
Yes, well, and I must respond to Messiah Frankie. I have to disagree with him on one of his points. If I'm gonna vote for a politician based on intelligence and attractiveness, I'd have to disagree on his choice. I would go with Kirsten Sinema. Not that I vote Democrat, but hey, I'd have to vote for Kirsten Sinema.
Well, she's going to be running as an independent again, most likely. I mean, she's an independent now. We'll see what that looks like as we're getting up towards the next election. And I think she's a couple cycles away. I don't study that much of the Arizona representatives and senators, I'll freely admit, but I think it was a calculated move. So that'll be another interesting one to keep our eye on among these many. I don't have enough eyes to keep eyes on all of these things, so we'll do our best.
Agreed. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak. I turn the mic back over to you.
Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too.
All right. And with that, I think we got time for one more quick call on the line here. We do have Barbara on the west side with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us. We got a few minutes here.
Thank you, Andrew. Quick is not a very good word to use before my name.
Understandable. It is just where we is in the show.
I wanted to make a few comments regarding President Trump's trip this weekend. I mean, he just like all other Democrats, he's the leader of the pack. He came to the border to throw more money on things that aren't going to solve an issue. He didn't even go to the Border Patrol. He promised us before he was going to give them cutting-edge equipment. So he went to go see the equipment, the canines, the vans, everything that's not going to secure a border and is not going to make an impact at the border because he was at a point of entry. And then I wanted to comment regarding the mayor. And by the way, Tony was not invited. He was on television saying he was not invited, asking why. But the mayor, he's an example of someone who has become desensitized to his job. He keeps saying they're not using the citizens' money, which is not true. Now he's saying they're clearing the streets 3 times a day. But he doesn't tell us what they're going to do as a permanent solution, because that's expensive 3 times a day. And he says we're worried about the blankets and stuff on the concrete. That's going to continue. This is just a vicious cycle that they're not finding a solution for. And it seems like they're satisfied with it. And then they opened and closed the schools. Well, that took money. And now I hear that Senator Cornyn and them are going to come and look at the schools that were set up. So are they closed or are they open, or are they just temporarily closed because they expect another influx of illegal immigrants. And so he says, we're trying to take care of everything to prevent a local pandemic. Well, what's the permanent solution so that they don't have to be worried about, and we don't have to worry about that either? And then I saw Stout on Fox News this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he says he's against expanding Title 42 because it's a racist policy that Trump implemented. But he believes that Biden understands a shifting immigration situation. And he understands our needs. That means he's going to give us more money. And one of the things he said that the administration has stepped up to the plate or come to our rescue. Well, that's not true. I think the city's still waiting for $4 million, and they've been waiting on it for several months, if not half a year. So anyway, that's what he was saying about them. And then he said, and then the gentleman that called about the Republicans and the House Speaker, he was right on everything he said. But one of the things that we did get is there's going to be accountability. No blank checks to Ukraine. Fantastic. They're going to have 72 hours to read bills, and you cannot have any more omnibus bills. It's going to be by subject matter, which is great. And if you want pork, you've got to come ask before Congress exactly what it is, and you've got to justify it. And then he said audits. There's going to be audits. If you come in and ask for money, say the DOD wants more money, they've got to cut money in another area. So anybody wanting more money from the Republicans aren't going to get it. So those are a lot of the good things that came out of the debate of democracy in action, and all those who say that the Republicans were not unified. What I saw sheep sitting on the Democratic side. They never, ever deviate. Even if they're not independent thinkers, there's not one independent thinker on the Democratic side, because if there were more, they'd be out there with cinema, and they're not. She had, mind of her own, and I respect her for that. But every single Democrat, including our congresswoman who sits on the congressional floor and never has anything to say or input on a difference with the president, she's just very complacent. She's just willing to go along to get along, or what is it? Go along to get along. So anyway, did I get it?
I think you hit most of it here, and that's about what we got here. I had to laugh at the idea of the unity of the Democrat Party, because sure, by comparison, it may seem that way, but honestly, the people that I know that are avowed Democrats and liberals, they often decry the exact same thing, but from the opposite perspective. So I mean, it often from outside looking in, it can seem one way, but let's just say the idea of there being unity of any real party. I mean, sure, the enemy of my enemy is my friend is a statement that often gets brought up here when I'm talking about, well, so shouldn't you vote with us? But let's just say the interesting example you brought up of what was going on in the Senate previously, Manchin and Sinema, let's just say that inflection points do abound. And again, regardless of what you think about it, this is going to be a very interesting session of Congress to watch here, among the many, 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 many other things that we'll keep watching. But by the way, we do also have some clips from the El Paso County judge that we will be playing tomorrow here. So we'll have more to talk about along those lines. Be assured of that.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Sure thing. Thank you much for the point of the call. You have a good one there.
You too.
And with that, we got to take that break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll tell you a little bit more about what we got coming up for you here. Again, a lot to break down, including some business implications and a whole lot more. But in any case, got to take that break. Back after this with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier accident, Gateway West at Hawkins, has got all lanes open there. I-10 westbound at Red, that earlier crash is cleared. All lanes are back open. On the spur, eastbound, 10-minute delays from the Gateway to the Loop. Sunland Park, eastbound approaching Donovan Drive. An injury accident there is causing stop-and-go delays. Take Racetrack to Donovan Drive as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
The Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Hey, Texas. There are approximately 950,000 individuals in Texas living with a serious mental illness, which is an individual risk factor for severe COVID-19. If you or someone you know is living with a serious mental health condition, such as schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, or bipolar disorder, make sure they know where to go this holiday season to stay safe and healthy. Visit covidvaccine.texas.gov to find resources and location information for vaccine providers near you. Stay healthy, Texas.
I didn't think it was possible to meet someone like Susan. We just clicked after realizing we each have a strong sense of self and share the same core values in life.
After taking our advanced personality test, Daniel and Susan matched on Silver Singles, the secure dating site for 50-plus singles who know what they want. Sign up today at silversingles.com/date. That's silversingles.com/date.
Paid actors representing true customer testimonials. Names have been changed.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
That is going to be about it for us for today. Cramming in a lot into the show, and we got more coming up for you tomorrow besides what we were able to even get to today. I got some more interviews about kind of the aftermath, next steps coming up with County Judge Ricardo Samaniego. Again, input from the actual Chamber of Commerce here in El Paso, among other things, and more clips of a very specific nature on kind of again, specific policies and other things coming up, including questions I was able to ask during parts of these visits. So we got a lot more coming up for you this weekend, even a little bit further on, talking more about legislative sessions, what's going on in Congress, as well as more from like input from the NGO. So that's like the next 3 weeks and it's kind of laid out, but I'm sure we'll deal with more within there. So that'll do it for us for today. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. That's all we got for today. So until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles out on the road and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 54 southbound, starting to slow down from Stan Roberts down to Martin Luther King Boulevard with 26-minute delays. Zaragoza, 10-minute delays. Stop and go northbound from the Loop to Montana Avenue. I-10 westbound near the Viscount Drive exit. Watch for a pedestrian on the right shoulder. Gateway west at Hawkins. That earlier crash is clearing. And watch for an injury accident in Lee Trevino northbound at Pebble Hills. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Paid for by government.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny